Good afternoon, everyone. This is another session of Physio TV. So today we'll be having a talk on breathing exercise, and Dr. Sarita Arse will be taking that session for us. And she is a cardiovascular and respiratory physiotherapist, and she has done this from CIMS Bhopal. She is has a working experience of more than 7 years and is also a gold medalist from BU Bhopal University. We welcome you, ma'am, for our session. So, handing over to you, ma'am.
Okay, so today's topic is breathing exercises. So the objective of today's class is at the end of this lecture, you will be able to define breathing exercises, understand goals, guidelines, and its precaution, indication, and contraindication. And we will be understanding about the different type of breathing exercises, which is technique, how to perform, and its progression. So according to National Library of Medicine, a breathing exercises refers to any deliberate conscious technique that alters the rate, rhythm, depth, or pattern of breathing in order to influence physical, respiratory, or mental health. So, before doing anything, we should know the goal of that. So, the breathing exercises, the goals are to improve ventilation so that it can improve the oxygenation and lung volume. It reduces dyspnea, correct abnormal breathing pattern, and decreases work of breathing. It improves respiratory muscle strength, endurance, and coordination. It increases the effectiveness of cough mechanism and promotes airway clearance. It improves chest and thoracic spine mobility, prevent post-operative pulmonary complication, promote relaxation and relieve stress, and it also improves a patient's overall functional capacity for daily living, occupational and recreational activities. So we should know the basic guidelines how to perform the breathing exercises. So if possible, we should choose a quiet area with the minimal distraction because the communication is the key component in the breathing exercises. So we should choose the area which is minimal from the distraction so that patient can get the instruction clearly. Patient should be in a comfortable, relaxed position with the loose clothing. Yes, as we are going to expand the chest and do the different movement related with chest and arm, so we should allow the patient to use the loose clothing so that no restriction would be there. Then physiotherapist should observe and assess patient breathing at rest and later with the activity. And as per the pathology and impairment, we should determine whether to emphasize either in the inspiratory or in the expiratory phase of the ventilation. Then before starting the session, we should give the aims and rationale as per the patient impairment and their functional limitation. And if it is necessary, at the beginning of the exercises, we should teach the patient relaxation because relaxation is important as it allows the accessory muscle to work less and like it allows the diaphragm to work more. So we need at the initial period of the time, we need the relaxation of the accessory muscle. So we should teach the relaxation first before beginning of the session. Then therapist should demonstrate the desired breathing pattern to the patient so that patient can get the accurate idea that how should they should initiate and what is the outcome it should come after the exercises. So they should be able to mimic that particular pattern after watching. Then have the patient practice initially under observation. As in the initial cases, we always require the patient to be practiced in the supervision of the therapist and with the assistant, and then the progression can be done in the variety of positions, which can be at rest and with the different activities. So before going for the detail, we should know the precautions that we should never allow a patient to do a forceful expiration because the forceful expiration can create a air turbulence, which can further create the bronchospasm in the patient tracheobronchial tree. So we should avoid that. Do not allow the patient to initiate inspiration with accessory muscle and the upper chest. We should see that this upper chest movement should be minimal and the lower abdominal movement should be maximal. And we should advise the patient that the upper chest should be relatively quiet during the breathing and allow the patient to perform deep breathing only for 3 to 4 inspiration, and we should give a break of expiration as to avoid hyperventilation in this condition. And as per the pathology and impairment, exercises to improve ventilation often combined with the medication, airway clearance, and use of respiratory therapy devices and a graded exercise aerobic conditioning program. So we should check with the goal that what is the goal of this particular exercises, then only we should prescribe that exercise. So there are these are the indications. So basically, patients without chronic respiratory disease having such as pre and post operatively, especially the high risk individuals such as elderly, smokers, obese, these require pre and post pre-operatively as well as post-operatively breathing exercises. Then the compounding medical conditions such as immunosuppressant neuromuscular dysfunction will also be indicated for the breathing exercises. If your finding X-ray finding and the auscultatory findings are with the atelectasis and lung infection, in that case also we will be prescribing breathing exercises. And if the patient is having hypoxemia, so the other indications are if the patient is having chronic respiratory conditions such as restrictive airway diseases, when there is fibrosis and scarring of the lung tissue, and there will be less movement in the chest. So in that case, we require more to do the ventilator training. Then clinically significant dyspnea, which is at rest or with activity and exercises, we should advise the breathing exercises to them. Then in the case of atelectasis, pneumonia, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders such as asthma, uh, emphysema, and as an adjacent for the relaxation technique and airway clearance. So the contraindication, if the patient cardiovascular status is not stable, for example, if there is fluctuation, severe fluctuation in blood pressure, respiratory rate, and heart rate, so we should not do the exercises. We should always think for the primary stability or primary care of the patient. Then after the stability, we can go for the exercises. And respiratory conditions such as pneumothorax, which is untreated, active hemoptysis if there, rib fractures, pleural cells, large pleural effusion, bronchopulmonary fistula, severe chronic lung diseases, pulmonary embolism, acute pulmonary edema, or active pulmonary hemorrhage. And in the case of active infections such as TB, this is contraindicated. Musculoskeletal problems such as unstable fractures, vertebral fractures, severe arthritis, severe osteoporosis, or fragile bones, we should not give the breathing exercise. Then severe cognitive impairment, confusion, inability to follow instruction, psychiatric inability or lack of cooperation or motivation. So the communication is the key. When we prescribe the exercises, patients should able to understand our command, whatever the goal we are giving patients to achieve it. So in the case of cognitive impairment and confusion, we should not do. And severe exercise-induced hypoxemia, not correctable by oxygen supplementation. If we are going with the exercise and we see that there is a hypoxemia, saturation is dropping, so in that case, and even after giving the oxygen therapy, the saturation is not coming up, in that case also, this is contraindicated. So now we will be seeing the different types of breathing exercises. As we all know, the exercises are divided into inspiratory and expiratory. So one by one, we will be seeing the different exercises along with their techniques. So the first exercise in inspiratory are breathing control. So in the breathing control, you can see it is a normal tidal breathing using the lower chest with relaxation of the upper chest and shoulder. In breathing control, it is just the normalization of the tidal breathing. So we ask the patient to just do the tidal breathing. This could be done in the case of breathlessness when the patient is using more on their accessory muscles. So in that condition, we can advise the breathing control to the patient. So in this, patient position will be comfortable, well supported. Either it can be sitting position, and if the patient cannot come in the sitting, high sideline is also recommended for the same. And the therapist position will be standing beside the patient. And hand placement, we can do the hand placement over the abdominal area. It can be the patient as well as the therapist. So the instruction we will be giving to the patient is, the patient is encouraged to relax his upper chest, shoulder, and arm while using So basically, upper chest, arms and shoulder, and the abdominal muscle also we ask the patient to relax, and we will be advising the patient to breathe through the nose and breathe out. With the breathe in, there should be we are placing the hand over the belly, so there should be rise in the abdomen, and with the breathe out, the hand should sink down and go in. So inspiration will be active and the expiration should be relaxed and passive. And in the breathing control, that is the thing that there should be no sound, so the expiration should be barely audible. So this is the thing in which we need to advise mostly on the inspiration, and expiration should be passive. So the next exercise is and the breathing control can be performed in the different position, such as high sideline, forward leaning, standing against the wall. So in this particular position, actually what happens, there is a position which optimize the length tension relationship of the diaphragm. In this particular position, what occurs, the diaphragm goes forward because of there is a descent of the abdominal organ to the anterior side. So the diaphragm gets more space to descend, and there will be more abdominal movement as compared to the upper chest movement. So we should advise the patient of who is having breathlessness. We can advise for breathing control for this particular position. Then the next exercise is diaphragmatic breathing exercise. As we all know, the diaphragm is the main muscle of the respiration, and it can represent 80% of the breathing. It is also known as breathing, belly breathing or abdominal breathing, and it can be done with or without manual facilitation. In the beginning of the exercises, we should always go with the manual facilitation technique. As the patient becomes competent about the exercises, then we can go for the without manual facilitation. So first we'll see about the manual facilitation. So in this particular exercise, the therapist position will be walk stand beside the patient. Patient position will be ideal position is semi-forward. It can be performed in the sitting as well as in supine position, but ideally with this position, the length tension relationship of the diaphragm will improve. So there are basically three stimulation for diaphragmatic breathing. First is the tactile stimulation, second is visual stimulation, and third is auditory stimulation. So the tactile stimulation is being given by placing the hand over the abdomen. So initially the therapist would place the hand over the abdomen, another hand over the chest area. Visual stimulation, therapist will be asking the patient to observe the movement of the lower hand, so that the rise in the abdomen and the when the abdomen is goes in the original position can be seen by the patient, and patient can see the maximum effect of the exercise. Then auditory stimulation. Auditory stimulation can be given by the inspiratory and expiratory sound, which will be corresponding to the patient respiratory cycle. So yeah, before starting the exercises, where we need to explain all three stimulus to the patient, and then therapist has to observe the several respiratory cycle. After that, therapist will be asking the patient to do complete exhalation and instruct the patient to breathe out more deeply with verbal cues such as fill my hand with air or take a breath into my hand. And then therapist asks the patient to notice the abdominal expansion. And in this period, after the abdominal expansion, the exhalation should be relaxed and passive. There should be no effort during the expiration. Then the technique without manual facilitation. This is nothing. This is just the independent practice which is done by the patient own hand over the abdomen. They can place their both hands on the belly area. Either they can place one hand over the chest and one hand over the belly, and they can perform in supine position as well as in the sitting position. So in this particular thing, the patient will be doing this by their own, and therapist will be giving the verbal cues and observing the maximum effect of the diaphragm. Then the progression can be this diaphragmatic breathing exercises can be progressed to the higher level, such as supported sitting. Then it can be done in the unsupported sitting. Then also can be done in standing, walking, stair climbing, as well as cycling and activity of daily living. So once the patient become competent about the exercises, we should remove all the stimulation which we are doing were giving previously at the beginning phase, and then we should remove the stimulation and ask the patient to focus more on the belly breathing rather than the upper chest breathing.